see it would slide right up, so you want to hold on to it. Usually I just get my vice grip. That way it won't slide down. This is a new rope. My hands aren't working.
Miller's has sash cord.
Yeah, they carry a lot of the window stuff that is necessary.
19th Street and 4.
Yep.
Or Carpenter. 19th and Carpenter, right? Yeah.
The window 19th and what? Carpenter.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Thrashers, and so you have kind of the same thing. Yeah, Thrashers would too.
Going to replace the sash cord, how do you get all of it?
I don't know.
You have to take out the access pocket and,
All right.
and cut the rope as a first, then pocket out.
Kind of in dire straits. Looks like it needs a little bit more than glazing, but overall it's still in pretty good shape, so it is definitely a fixable window. I'm just going to get the other one out. That take the double sash, and these can be definitely a tough job to get out because they usually nail them in and like years of paint possibly. Also, you need to be careful. This is probably a lead paint. It has the crackle in it, so when you're dealing with lead paint, you just got to be really cautious not to disturb it a lot. And they recommend to moist it down when you are working with lead paint. So. Usually,
Does that window still pull down all the way?
Well, sometimes what they do, they
If it does, because if you pull it down all the way, you can pull that side piece out really easy.
Right.
It's that middle piece that's a bummer that'll break on you.
It's got a nail on the left side holding that up.
Yeah.
What keeps that window from falling down?
Here's the nail.
There's the nail holding it up on the left.
Yeah. The nail went under the window. Down on the bottom. You're under the window.
There, right there.
Oh yeah, that's a classic way of doing that.
Yep. And that probably means that it is broke.
Yeah. And sometimes with windows, if you just need to do glazing, you don't have to take them out of the window. But it's easier to get, to do them flat. But it is possible for you to. It's been a while since I've done windows, so I apologize.
There you go.
And this one does not have its ropes. That wasn't even on the thing.
So we have separate ropes?
Yeah, there's two separate ropes.
Oh.
Oh, I thought that window.
There's the side part right here that has two screws. You can get to this weight, the front weight, and then the upper weight is in the back. Probably have to try to get that out. But painted. So you probably, this is the interior, just to refinish this and put some condition on this. And then on the exterior, definitely when you glaze windows, it needs repainted. And so the wood is soft, so you want to probably do all of it at once. So anything that's loose and joints, you definitely want to repair it. If there's Let me put this down. I don't want to bust the glass. Yeah, these joints are soft, so a lot of times you can just take the glass out and glue the joints and pack them together. That will hold that. And sometimes you need to do some bonding. They have an epoxy that you can use.
Is that to fill in holes?
The fillers, yep, and it's a hardening type of epoxy that you can build up like a corner or something. Because if you touch it, it's soft wood in some areas. It just needs reconditioned. But it is, you know, it's salvageable. You know, it's just a little bit of time consuming. And this is your latex caulking
Yeah.
that has been used.
That wasn't the option.
Yeah.
So to get that out, that's might be a fun project. So, and the glazing you can see has obviously fallen over the years, so it definitely needs to be refurbished.
Abatron makes a liquid epoxy that if you have, especially where the bottom rail meets at the corners, oftentimes where moisture sits, that's where windows rot typically. And Abatron makes an epoxy liquid that you want to have your window completely clean, or else the epoxy will just bind the paint right to the wood. But you can first soak that corner in epoxy, and that consolidates that mushy wood. And then they make a two-part putty, and at a workshop I was at, it's really great. This epoxy, if you think of it like it has two parts that you can put together, and it's non-toxic and non-caustic. They still recommend gloves, but if you, as you mix it, if you keep it like a pen, it'll give you a longer working time to work in, to fill in voids and that sort of thing, or even rebuild corners. I've done that in a couple of windows in our house. Miller's also has, I was trying to think who makes it.
Does Miller's have the Abatron?
No, you have to, I don't think they do. I think you can order that on site though, and you can order different quantities of Abatron, so you want to get the smallest.
You would
so it doesn't,
go online to find out where?
Yeah, yeah. And they also advertise in Old House Journal. And, they're pretty well known for their window putty repair materials.
Yeah,
That is a liquid that I found to work just as well, but I haven't found a good solid type of epoxy, two-part epoxy that works as well as the Abatron.
Another one is also the auto body.
Yeah,
Bondo.
Bondo.
That's another option.
And the only way you can use Bondo is if you plan on painting.
Yeah.
It's kind of pinky.
Yeah, and it hardens really quick. So it is a good product, like you said, if you're going to be painting. So, I guess we'll take these out. I guess the professionals, they use kind of like a warmer heat gun on windows. But a lot of times heat will contrast to the window and crack the window. So they really don't recommend using the heat gun on if you're going to use the same glass, because it will crack and it just is frustrating. But I have done it and I've been lucky, but you got to use low heat and not really sit in one spot, because it will, especially with little glass, it's really brittle. So you definitely need to be cautious about that. Your basic tools that I use, needle nose, usually to try to get the points out, which are underneath the glazing. Some scrapers, usually a 5-in-1 scraper is pretty good with when you're trying to remove the glazing. And then another scraper is more a flathead scraper I use on some windows if I do them. Chisel. Use chisels. It's a little bit easier. You need to be cautious though when you're trying to not force the glazing out, but it hardens up. And it's usually like a rock. But in this case, this glazing has kind of came away from the wood, so it's going to be a little bit easier probably to remove. Knife, but it's at 45-degree angle. There's different sizes of points. A lot of times the standard stores carry, this is, I don't know what style they call this. But this is one of the styles of a point. A lot of the older homes don't really have these points. They usually have a smaller triangle point switch. This is a bigger size point that they used in certain wood. And it becomes smaller. And usually you can, if you have a lot of windows to do, they do sell a point gun at Miller's. It's really nice because you can shoot them in and not worry about trying to break the wood. So, of course, you know, safety, you know, windows, but I don't like to, so not to. So right now, what we're going to do is, since it's kind of loose, I'm just going to try to get by the wood to remove the glazing. Let's see if I can do that. And it's going to be pretty easy so far. You know, I think that everyone, the basic way of glazing and doing things, but I know there's other people that have different methods and, you know, different ways of doing it, but this is just kind of the way I was taught, you know, over the years of doing it, so it could be the right way or the wrong way, so it's kind of pops out.
Yeah. That's when it pops right out.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's not always like that.
So is that a utility knife you use?
The older
Yeah,
it is,
okay.
the easier it tends to come out.
Excuse me?
The older it is, the easier
Yeah.
it tends to fall out.
Yeah.
The stuff that's been put in the last 20 years is what's
Yep.
pain.
And the thing is, if it doesn't need to be replaced, if it's still intact, and if it's just bits and pieces, I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, it's one, I mean, you know, it's original, and it's a lot of the products back then are a lot better than what the products are now. So if it's still got a whole nice bond, you know, if it's one, even, you know, half of one side, I wouldn't worry about it, but that's just my opinion. That's what I would do. You gotta be kind of careful, of course. The tool is to try to get all the glazing, because when you want to pop the glass, they do.
I did it and broke the glass just like that. So there must be a technique to
There is a
it.
technique, and I think, you know, I would do it if it's not my glass.
Yeah.
If this was like new glass, I would do it, but since this is original glass, I want to not do it because it's not mine. But, you know, if you do use it, you know, you can get the shield, but, you know, the metal's going to also attract to the glass.
You
But,
have to keep the whole paint out.
yeah.
It's just, it expands differently, and that's where it cracks. You have to keep the whole thing up. You keep it warm while you're trying to work over here, but you have to keep I haven't done it,
rotating.
but it's like you said, they make the irons that go against it, but it's still, you have to heat the whole thing up. And
Right.
Well, maybe that's the secret, because I didn't have any luck.
I have had a few, but there's times where I've just had, I mean, there's a few that I've had hairline cracks, but there's some, yeah, it just cracks right in half. It's just
Would it make
devastating.
any difference if it was a hot day in the summer?
Possibly the elements are warmer.
You never know.
The glazing compound is probably a linseed-based product, unless it's been reglazed and that's dried out. And it's just all the linseed is gone out of that product. That's what makes that so brittle. It's just dried out.
And it can't, there's times where you can go whip through windows, and there's times you can get a window for a couple hours, you know. In my experience, I've done.
It almost feels like
One of the things, like what I did too, is do what she did, and then I went back and soaked linseed. I just brushed it on there. I was thinking maybe it would reconstitute.
But it
Didn't work.
You definitely learn as you go and what works for you, you know, and you get your basic ways of doing them. But yeah, it can happen. It's
While she's doing that too, that sometimes there's glazing stops or glazing points, and so they can really get your fingers.
yeah.
What is
the glazing points do?
They hold
Pull
the glass.
window in. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
glass.
So okay.
The glazing is actually just a water seal, but the glazing points hold the glass into the frame. Exactly, same idea. They're just metal, and oftentimes the old ones are a triangle piece, which Miller's still uses, but if you're doing it yourself, they're real small, but use a cutting knife or a screwdriver to push those out. I asked Miller how much that tool cost to put the old Bangler ones in. It's like almost $200.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's expensive, but if you do a lot of windows, it's worth it. It's a nice tool to have.
So what kind of other windows are they going to put on this house then?
Huh?
They've got aluminum right now.
The storms?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
We're in this green mode, and all you folks here are in the green mode and rehabbers. I think Dick Moe with the trust said it the best. Said that the greenest building is one that's still standing.
Yep.
And what you're really trying to do with a storm is create a thermal barrier. And so wood is actually far superior than any other product, aluminum, whatever, because it has a thermal break built into it. The replacement window people will tell you that all of this stuff has to be thrown away because they're thermally inefficient. Well, actually, where a window is most inefficient is here, not here. You can double, triple the glazing, and you will get very little difference in thermal conductivity, whether this is single pane, and most of the older windows are much thicker, because this is float glass. This is where you need to concentrate with weather stripping, or down here and here, because that's where you lose your thermal. The Old House Journal and others have done some research and said that replacement windows, in effect, can have a 30-year payback. 30 years, and you've lost all the historic value. So what she's doing here, or demonstrating, is working with your wood windows and then concentrating on the weather stripping, and then good quality storm windows are a far better combination than going out and ripping them all out and buying replacement windows.
Yeah, because ours were replaced before we bought the house, and one, it gives a whole different look of our house. It had pane windows throughout, it had round windows on each side, and those were replaced with vinyl windows in like '89, and they were crap. They're terrible. They fall down. I don't see any difference, and it's definitely about resealing and storms.
Yeah, we're seeing vinyl windows that were put in 10 to 15 years ago are now failing because they're cracking, they warp, and these have been here 100 years.
Well, and once something goes wrong with the vinyl window, you can't
fix it.
You can't fix it.
You have to replace
it's about replacing it.
You're talking about weather stripping. I'm having the same problem right here. There's gaps, you know, and so what do you put in there?
Well, we were talking in there a little bit. I haven't found a good, but they make a stop, and the one I had or tried was aluminum, and then for that parting stop you had, it has it's a spring-loaded thing. But for large windows, I haven't found one that works because they're not strong enough. And so what I've done is just concentrate on the north windows. In our house, it already had metal weather stripping, and Miller's sells and it because our house and our window already had it. I haven't applied new ones, but they he actually cut us a groove you have a groove that you cut in here, and one piece goes in here, and another piece goes onto the frame. And that's where, and the ones I have from 1905 are zinc. The new ones, I don't know what, they probably make them out of copper or something like that. The other thing you can do is just, in the winter, close them up and then use that caulking that strips out.
The rope caulk.
The rope caulking.
The what?
Rope caulking, and you just take it out in the spring.
There's also removable caulking and tube too, with the use of the caulking.
Yeah, I don't like that stuff as much, but just take it out in the spring and then put it back in the fall.
What do you do about kind of rotted corners like you see?
Well, that's where
Down here.
you would strip this down with a heat gun or a stripper, and that's where you would use that epoxy, and then that Abitron you just fill in this missing.
After you use the hardener, right?
Well, yeah, the one that I think is 3M, you don't need the hardener. I think Air does it.
Okay.
But the putty you use is a two-piece epoxy.
Right. Well, Minwax has a wood hardener too that you can just pour it right on. It'll just suck right into the wood and turn it hard.
Yeah.
You know, and then you can use it, you know, a two-part.
Yeah. And the problem I've had with some of those, there's
Yeah, you get that.
the problem I've had is sometimes that if you put too much, it gets shiny, and then it's hard.
Yeah, you only can paint it though.
Yeah.
You know, most things you only can paint. If you use anything, you dump on it, fill it.
If you look closely, you can see right now there's a couple of glazing points that are holding the window in that need to come out before the glass will come out.
Yeah.
When I did my first window, God, it must have been 25 years ago, the glass fell out, and I made a note myself, remember the glazing points. I forgot to put them in.
Well, the older ones, the rabbit on the older ones is so shallow, the first points you pick up that have the tabs on them, so they're really easy to push in, they stick up. So you either have to glaze over them, leave them exposed, or use something smaller.
I was always told on glazing points that they're there to kind of hold the window in. They're not used to push on the window. They should touch the glass. You know, because otherwise it gets to be a pressure point, and it's actually the glazing that will hold and seal it in.
So you lay them on, but you're not actually trying to like push them down into it.
Well, there's all this extra paint and everything on the glass. Do you just use a paint pen?
A lot of glazers have these little automatic things.
That or just wet it down with some warm water, or you know, you can probably use a mineral spirits. If it's latex, you want to soften up, then use like a spray foam.
So if you have a window and like the part that's green on this one and then the sill in the house is all cracked, it's probably latex?
If it's cracked,
it's probably lead paint?
It's lead. Anything that looks like, this is a lead-based paint. That's kind of cracked.
This is oftentimes called alligatoring, and the reason for that is not only is it lead paint and it's outside, but it's also multiple layers of paint. And so when you get multiple layers of paint, you have thermal differential expansion, and so the paint no longer can adhere to the wood, and so it alligators or cracks. And so the only solution is to strip it off. And then she mentioned earlier about the boiled linseed oil. I've been looking for, I had a whole case of linseed oil-based glazing compound from Gibson Homans, I think, and I've been looking for linseed oil glazing, but once it's all stripped off, you can take half turpentine, half boiled linseed oil, and then just brush it in where the bare wood is. And just, like she mentioned, just let it sit. What you have to watch with that stuff is the rags, because they can spontaneous combust if you get a whole bucket. And so you want to let them dry out and get them outside. But that will reconstitute and actually help seal that wood. I don't like anything personally with urethane, hate urethane stuff, so I try to use linseed oil as much as possible. Yeah, and that's just to thin down the linseed oil turpentine, just to thin it down a little bit. That's all it's for.
It's hard.
Great. You have a lot more patience than I do.
That's why people replace windows, because they...
Yeah, especially if you hire to have it done, the labor would be horrible.
Yeah. I mean, it could take some time.
Well, it is labor intensive, there's no doubt about it.
But the nice thing about it is it's not rocket science. Like,
No.
it's something that anybody can learn to take on. And you don't have to do all your windows at the same time either.
No.
I'm a little worried about those cords flying up.
One at a time, yeah.
I was like, oh no.
Well, the other thing is, what we're beginning to see is, you know, there's no doubt that a double glazed Pella or Windsor wood, they're great windows. They're just not appropriate if you're trying to do an accurate rehab of a historic home. Well, the glass in these is oftentimes it's wavy and it adds that nice texture. For the new glass, they call it, you know, they have these low E, that term, and they tout that. Well, what we're finding out is, especially in commercial projects, if they're doing replacement windows, that the manufacturer of this window might be in, you know, Connecticut or somewhere, and down the line that window breaks, and the replacement window is in Dallas, Texas, and they're different colors. Some have a brown tint, some of them have a blue, some of them have like a green tint. And so, you know, these being just clear, non-reflective, wonderful glass, you can replace if it breaks, and you're going to get clear glass again.
Are there any sources for the old glass or not?
Salvage is
Salvage, buy it.
Yeah,
And then
they
you have
actually do make it. It's real expensive.
Yeah.
You know.
It actually looks
I know Martha Stewart said she replaced hers.
Well, if you found a bunch of glass, you'd have to have it cut to fit the window in from the glass cutter.
You could cut old glass, but it's really yourself. I actually have a glass cutter tool, but it's a thicker glass usually, and it's more brittle. So, I mean, you could probably find salvage pieces and measure it and maybe take it to the hardware store, and they may cut it for you to the appropriate size.
I have a front door that had the old, at one time, the old etched glass window in it. Apparently it broke or something, but I was noticing the other day, it's plastic. It's a piece of bubble plastic in there. So I went out to the glass place, and they told me they can't put glass in a door. It's just
Yeah, you have to lie.
Oh, okay. So you can't tell
Every 6 to 8 inches.
every 6 to 8 inches.
Yeah.
Since you're working on this window, is the top of that have like a dado or whatever, where the glass actually slides into the top of the sash?
This one, the top?
No, the top of that sash you're working on.
Yeah.
Because mine is like, glass actually slides into it.
That's how mine is,
broke one of my
too,
original pages, was trying to take it out of there.
Yeah, you have to slide it out. That's the way mine is, yeah. And you don't glaze that.
Okay, so this one, the one I took out was glazed. It actually
Was it?
glazed into it, yeah.
Normally you don't glaze that. Is it true?
Before you slide in the
So you are
glass.
on the inside also, or just the outside?
Just the
Of
outside.
the outside.
Okay.
Because there's a stop on
With the
this
glass.
that it lays against. The glass lays right.
Yeah.
By the way, see that tool she's making? I know Miller's has those. I imagine other hardware stores do, but there's 3 different sizes.
On there like water.
And that triangle piece, you can get replacements that can be curved. That's a wonderful
And
tool.
what's
Yeah.
it called?
Triangle, it's just a scraper.
Pink.
Yeah.
Intact.
Yes, that's
What you want to try to do is, once you get that glass, is clean as much as so the new glass or the old one will sit and it helps still, because water is what you're fighting.
Is there any appropriate expletive when you're breaking it?
Yeah, there is. And it's a real tight link flat.
Yeah, well,
And And so can you replace rope with sash chain? Well, you can. What I was told is how you tell the difference is if you look at the pulley, and if the pulley is, the profile is round, that means it was meant to have rope. If the pulley is flat, it was meant to have sash chain. And the one I bought, I just bought a whole box of it through Miller's. It's probably been 10 years ago. And it uses, it just comes through the weight, and then it uses a clip around, like a S-clip, to attach to itself. And I use that stuff, but what I found out when you put it on a rope pulley, it clinks. You know, it makes a sound when you raise. So I've gone back to the rope.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't have a commercial break.
Right. Oh. That's the scary part. Now you got this.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay. And I don't know what they're going to do. Alright.
So all that stuff is just on the outside of the window.
Yeah. And now, like, but Corey, I'm going to take these points. Yeah. See if we can get them out.
So what do they look like just when you put them in? They're just like a flat thing, like a tick or something?
Yeah, it's just it goes in the point, yeah.
Kind of like and where did it go in?
Well, there's debris that's around it, so the glass will lay flat. And you can treat it. I can put some linseed oil on it. And what you could do is, like it set for a few minutes and let it cure.
So would you take off all this green first?
Yeah, I would. I mean, you scrape it down and prime it and get it all prepped for it to be, painted. You can use an oil-based primer in here too.
And then you're going to linseed it before you paint it again. How long does it need to dry after you linseed it?
Actually, for the glazing, it takes about 48 hours before you can really touch any, prime and paint it. So I'd wait about 48 hours before you do that.
Okay.
She's to skim over, and all that the glazing and the paint is doing is keeping water. That's all it is. It's keeping water from getting in there and decorating.
The glass laid flat against the wood here, and then just glazing on top, or is that another bead of glazing underneath?
I've done it both ways, and I've not found it to be beneficial to lay a little bit of glazing compound down first, like a bed to set it in. Because the glass is usually smaller, if I really push that glazing in, I can work it.
It's nice and smooth now.
That's the bigger size. Those blades in there are like tungsten or something.
Yeah.
They last forever. Carbide or something.
Yeah. We have to go, but this was... I found a door when I stripped the wallpaper off. I found where they changed the door from the living room to the kitchen. Like, why did they ever do that? It's right where the kitchen covers are. That's where the door originally was. Yeah. What if the prices like that? Alright. I found a room with ugly green paint, but it's got a top border of the black fleur-de-lis pattern. Really pretty, and it's soaked way into the plaster because I accidentally chipped a piece. And it's soaked way down in there, so it's pretty cool. You never know what you're going to find.
It's really important to get the corners, especially because when you put it back in, that's when you can break the glass also. Forever. I was here.
You're saying you wouldn't take these apart. You would just shove some glue down in there, and then you would put a clamp on it rather than taking it apart and trying to push it back
why
together.
force more unless it's really necessary, you know? You can put some dowels, round dowels in here, and do some filler, and just clamp it together, and that should hold it together. So yeah, I'm gonna put some wet seed oil on those. Just now, I would scrape this, but it's windy and it's lead-based paint, so we could wait on that. I don't know.
With the environment. Neighbors now.
You know, like I said, you can put oil-based primer in where the glass is going to be too. So it's a white compound oil-based product.
Oh, okay. You can get it anywhere.
Yeah.
We're not picky about the kind of glazing.
Well, DAP 33 seems to be the best, but I haven't seen anything else. But that seems to hold the bond really good.
Okay. DAP 33.
Yeah, you can put some large time on these.
And that stuff hardens the wood, right?
Excuse me?
It hardens the
This
wood.
kind of cures it and penetrates some oil. Kind of seals it up a little bit. Not a little bit, a lot.
Well, Jack was talking about mixing that with turpentine. What was that for?
For soft wood.
Oh, okay.
It's just kind of thick, and what I use it to is mineral spirits and seed oil mixed together so it thins a little bit, and put it in a squirt bottle.
Okay.
Oh, you straight on?
That's good.
Everybody has their own little...
Yeah. And then that's just kind of conditioning.
Yeah, it just penetrates the wood, and the fire with all this is pretty.
Plus it helps the glazing seal to the wood a little bit better than some oil base.
Would you usually strip the detail first before you do all that?
This should be all stripped down and wrapped before. I mean, I can do one side. I don't know if you want me to come back in and show you, but I didn't know if you
Do you want to just talk? So we probably should finish working on what it's up to put the glass actually back in, right?
Excuse me?
We should probably finish what we need to do with the wood and stuff before we...
Well, we need to scrape this and stuff. Yeah, I can do all that. If you guys want to wait around.
I think the idea would just be to talk about the remaining steps. Like, what you actually do it as opposed to...
Yeah, just scrape this down, heat gun. It's safe to use this with a heat gun. Do some light sanding, do your repairs. Let it dry before you put your glass in. And then what you want to do is reinstall your glass. And
you show working with the...
Oh, yeah. I'm not very good at tell me what to do.
Just show how you work with it.
What you need to do is beat it in all air pockets, mix it in the product, and then sometimes the base will come up. What you want to do is knead it. Actually, I'll put the glass in, and then I'll show you how to glaze. And then I'll just take it out.
Easier said than done, huh?
Yeah. And you want to make sure that there's nothing that's make sure it's flattened down, because if you put points in, it's going to break the glass too. And what I'll do, I'll just put a couple points in. You want to go right. So what you want to do is just slide them in. on the hole. And make sure, like on this type of point, you want to make sure the back side is flat against the woodwork. This is another type of point. Let's put one in. Good point. What you want to do is put pressure on the tool, put it against the trim, the wood piece, about 1/8 thick.
This is going to be on your blog, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
I'm actually making a video. Edit it all together.
As you go down a couple times, just to make sure it's got some pressure against it.
I always wondered where that pattern came from that I see on old glazing, and now I understand how it happens.
And the next step is you want to take your tool at a 45-degree angle and put pressure on the glazing to smooth it out. See that right here.
So it has that much glazing in it, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's a little thin right there. And you just take the axle off.
Hard to remove 100 years later.
Yeah. When it gets the hang, you'll get in the hang of going in the corners. Corners can be kind of a challenge trying to do. Then I always put a little pressure on it to kind of mold to the glass and the wood. Just put a little more pressure on.
At least we have an idea how to do it now.
Does anyone want to try doing it? It's pretty easy. I mean, once you get...
Yeah, this is the fun part.
Yeah,
this is
what we've been waiting for.
Yeah. Later. This will be all redone. This will look pretty. Just quick.
I trust you. Now's your chance.
I won't put no tips in here. I'll just show you.
And then you said this takes 48 hours to really set up?
Yeah, I would wait. You know, you could hang them up, but I always kind of wait and let them sit for a couple days so they can stick to it. Put a little pressure on it.
Something you like it. Not bad at all.
Go to 45-degree angle, put a little pressure on it.
And when you're done with this side, can you show us how you'd make that corner look nice? I really want to see that part.
Yeah, you know what? My corners aren't the greatest.
That's all right. I want to see something like that, though. That's my biggest puzzle right now.
You don't see that Angela's very modest. Very good at this stuff. Yeah. The one part of her little presentation you can disregard.
Ah, okay.
So you just
kind of go
bring it
around.
up. Yeah, and then...
Okay.
You know, and you could take it and mold it. I mean,
sure.
Not everyone's going to look right at those corners, you know?
Yeah. That's cool.
Just put the pressure. You know, there's sometimes you got to put a little bit more in areas, you know, and sometimes take the axes. Oops. corners can be fun. But yeah, you want to make sure it's binding with the You want to try it?
Sure.
I was going to go with how Kelly's doing. It's almost here.
I know.
Right? Alright.
We're good. Pull it out. When you paint it, aren't you supposed to lap the paint onto the glass?
Lap the paint on the glass?
That's what I was saying.
I haven't heard that.
I'd always heard when you paint should come out onto the glass.
It would make sense. Just to seal it in.
Yeah, because this will, and one thing that I've heard too is make sure you paint this within a certain period of time.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the glazing compound's going to dry out, and
Yep.
it's going to separate,
Oh.
and it's going to defeat the whole purpose of reglazing it anyways.
So in this case, it wouldn't hurt to be a little bit on the glass then. A little sloppy. I want it straight. This will be a
Tell by utility wire.
Oh my gosh.
That's, you know what they use for,
That's
yeah. Classic.
That's the top one.
Hey, whatever works, right?
Wow.
Just cock it.
silicone. Put that in. I'll use this on my what not to do.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
Quick fix don't mean they're...
I got one that's been siliconed in because the paint is too small.
Yeah. I think this is one.
It was a windy night. It was rattling.
Kelly hers like to start with.
I'm trying. Well, I'm trying to get it so it's all even, the same amount.
Oh, you know what? You can fiddle with it. You know.
Yeah, because it.
Just play with it.
It's just getting comfortable with
Right.
the tool. You know, once you get that tool down and know that you may break some glass.
That looks good already. This is Oxidog. This is a new one.
Like I said, my problem was getting it out of the top of the frame.
Yes. Oh yeah, I broke a couple months ago.
You can tell it was original paint.
Yeah. It's maddening.
Turn this around, because every time you lift it, it's digging like this.
So if I go this way,
Try that.
it'll be more...
At least the way that you're using it, because it's
Still a little more pressure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
Oh.
So it does make it smoother that way, and then it's also a better angle. It's fun. I could do this for hours and hours and hours.
You know, if you just...
Yeah.
Let me know when you want to come over. Just for a walk here.
Tell you what, I'll cook and you can come over and do mine, Chad.
They can be kind of... It's just relaxing.
It is.
You just gotta get your groove on.
Especially when it's a nice day out.
I mean, it's like
I have
playing with
reglaze.
clay.
I'm like,
I hate to ask since it's getting late, but can you show us the weight, how you get into those
Sure.
weights?
I'm just going there really quick. Not my... I just do it.
Good job, Kelly.
Thank goodness.
I know.
yeah, that's good.
This is like the fun part of
Yeah, it
home
is.
improvement,
Once
you know?
It's like painting a fresh wall. You can see
Right,
progress.
yeah. It's really satisfying. It's gonna be perfect, but I think she's gonna take this off and
but
redo it anyway.
once you get paint on there, and
Yeah, you're
never
not
looking at it this close anyway,
That's true.
especially if you have storms over it. 'cause,
Right.
You know, even the older storms cover it,
That's true.
so you just never see it, and you can fudge a lot of that with, the edge with.
Yeah, and it's
Fools
really,
your eye with paint on there. You can change that line.
And it is really easy to kind of go back with your fingers
Oh, yeah.
and, fix this. It's really pliable stuff, so it's cool. Yeah, this was a good opportunity because I've never worked with glazing before, like the actual compound. So